Muslim faithful around the world celebrate EL-FITRI. Nigeria's vice president addresses country's unemployment. Zimbabwe's nomination process now open to presidential hopefuls. And in sports, African countries want the return of FIFA rotation system.
This is ANN News.
I'm Rotimi Akintunde. Muslim faithful around the world celebrate EL-FITRI today to mark the end of the holy month of Ramadan. Many headed to prayer grounds early this morning to offer prayers and to rejoice that this day has come. Nigeria's take off Friday and Monday celebrate while Kenya declared Friday a holiday. Most of the messages from Muslim clerics today in Nigeria revolved around the theme of love, unity, and goodness. Meanwhile, the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, says it felicitates with Nigerian Muslims over the successful completion of the Ramadan. The Nigerian Christian body says in a message, quote, "We are convinced that the spirit of sacrifice which the Ramadan epitomizes in the lives of Muslims will be demonstrated in the coming months through collaborating with the non-Muslim faithful in the promotion of peace and harmony in Nigeria's multicultural setting." End quote. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has promised that the government will look into the problem of unemployment in the country. At a town hall meeting on Thursday in Benin, Edo State, Osinbajo met with youth groups, traders, businessmen in agriculture, information and communication. He said the government was committed to supporting small businesses through funding and expert advice from its agencies to micro, small and medium-scale enterprises. The VP emphasized that the social investment program of the federal government was important to the president. Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai says the All Progressives Congress APC is not for everyone. El-Rufai was inaugurating newly elected executive committee members of the party in Kaduna on Thursday when he made the statement. He said some members are in the party to, quote, worship their egos, end quote. The village of Ogbozene Apugo in Enugu State is a ghost town today following the killing of its traditional ruler a few days ago. Residents are moving to neighboring villages and other locations where they could take cover. They believe there will be reprisal attacks and are afraid of the police. The traditional ruler was sued by locals who charged him with abuse of office and intimidation. The Igwe was killed when he arrived in court with armed security officers who shot into the crowd at random. Police say they are working to identify the culprits. Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu had called on elected representatives to be accountable to the electorate. He says this is the essence of democratic governance and urged elected officers at all levels to periodically render account of the stewardship to the people they represent. At the fourth session of the Enugu West People's Assembly in Enugu State, Ekweremadu applauded the federal government for awarding contracts for 3 road projects there. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has announced the ban of mobile phone use at polling centers during the September governorship election. INEC Resident Commissioner in the state, Olusegun Agbaje, says this is in connection to a plot by some politicians to manipulate the process. He said INEC was taking necessary steps to ensure a free, fair and credible exercise. The police in Taraba State has killed 3 suspected kidnappers who allegedly terrorized residents of the state in 2 local government areas. Police spokesperson says the criminal gang kidnapped a number of persons around Bali and Takum local government areas and that they camped their victims in a village in Bali. The police has appealed to the public to report any persons with bullet injuries for possible arrest and prosecution. When we return from this short break, we will revisit our discussion with Victor Ohai on the state of the war on corruption in Nigeria. Stay with us.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Adam, go and bring us your husband. Okay, hello baby. We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward. Wait, stop. You okay, lean to your right. Keep walking down. almost here. Keep going. You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on, so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Adam, go and bring us your husband. Okay, hello baby. We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward. Wait, stop. You okay, Lindsay, you alright? Keep walking down, keep walking to the left, yes? You're almost here. Keep going. You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on, so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
Welcome back. The war on corruption has been going on since President Buhari came into power. Nigerians have expressed opinions in either direction on the success or lack of it of the anti-corruption crusade. Victor Ohai has analyzed the intricacies of the move to wipe out corruption in Nigeria. It is not an easy task. Oftentimes,
Yes.
you hear about adjournment and all of that.
Yes.
It comes from the judiciary.
If you bring a case before the judiciary,
Yes.
okay, everything has to go through a normal course. For reasons of maybe investigation or for clarity or for whatever, the prosecution, perhaps to tighten its case or perfect it, may request for some adjustment or adjournment. Of course, you can't finish a case in one day.
Definitely.
That is very clear. Okay? So the issue of adjournment can be at the request of the prosecution or of the defense. Okay? The judiciary is to look at the facts that are presented before it and then take a decision based only on facts and the evidences before it, in order to be able to, to pass judgment. Now, what you notice, what we have found out, and this is why most cases fail, when they are presented before a judiciary and people end up blaming the judiciary, is that you find sensationalism. EFCC, even before conducting investigation, they will now first of all get the media, go storm a place, arrest a person, accuse him before the whole world as if he's already... Now, this is alien to our laws.
All right, finally, I would like you to speak on this very briefly before we round off. Now, talking about the integrity of who is fighting corruption, okay? How would you react to that? How do you see the president in terms of having that, having what it takes to tackle corruption, integrity-wise?
I will say this to you. It's like saying you have, in a camp where you have a den of robbers,
Okay.
then you make the camp commander, you put a reverend father as a camp commander, and then the place is peopled or is populated by thieves and all of that. Just having that symbolic head, so to say, doesn't cut it. You have to, you not only lead by example, but you must make example of criminals. You must, the word is zero tolerance. If you don't tolerate it, it won't be there. It's not enough. You can be a criminal, but we have seen cases where there are people who are obvious criminals, but they have zero tolerance themselves. Abacha was a man like that. He stole blindly, okay? but under him, very few people were able to steal. It doesn't make it right. You understand what I'm saying? But if you combine integrity with that level of discipline, then obviously the system will be a lot better.
All right, thank you very much. I've been speaking with Victor Ohai, a media consultant, and of course 2019 presidential aspirant, also called his new title, Maina Saran Ajingi. Yeah. All right, thank you so much for coming at this time. Regarding your ambition, finally, very quickly, you mentioned that being a person of high integrity will not do everything. Eventually, you have the baton, you are in power, you consider yourself as being qualified to tackle corruption. And you have a whole lot of issues regarding corrupt persons, officials, and top officials. How do you handle that very quickly? I'd like to know that before we round up.
First of
Just
all,
in one sentence.
First of all, you have to pick people who hate corrupt people, let me put it that way, and put them at the head of the various agencies. You must get like minds like you, people who have a mind to fight corruption. And it's not just enough to put them there. You've got to be able to monitor the system. If you set goals, you must monitor and ensure and get feedbacks and ensure that the goals that you set are met at every point in time. Okay? And you must be above board. And not only that, you don't just fight corruption, you must be seen to be fighting corruption.
Thank you very much. I've been speaking with Victor Ohai. Victor Ohai, thank you.
Thank you for
joining us at this time. I am Rotimi Akin today. Do have a wonderful time. We'll take another break and be right back. Stay with us.
Shining our eyes on breaking news, whether in the east or in the west, with Al-Shabaab in Somalia and Boko Haram in Nigeria, with turbulence in the north and agitation in the south. Wherever you live in Nigeria, wherever news happens in Africa, we've got it covered. ANN News, connecting Africans in a truly African spirit.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Adam, go and bring us your husband. Okay, hello baby.
We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward.
Wait, stop.
You okay, lean to your right. Keep walking down. Keep walking to the left. Yes.
You're almost here.
Keep going.
You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on, so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
Shining our eyes on breaking news, whether in the east or in the west, with Al-Shabaab in Somalia and Boko Haram in Nigeria, with turbulence in the north and agitation in the south. Wherever you live in Nigeria, wherever news happens in Africa, we've got it covered. ANN News, connecting Africans in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. Now to African stories. Zimbabwe has opened the nomination process to presidential hopefuls ahead of the scheduled July polls. This election will be the first in the country without former leader Robert Mugabe on the ballot. Mugabe came to power in 1980 after the country's independence, but was pushed out by the army last November. Meanwhile, Emmerson Mnangagwa, former vice president under Mugabe, is registered to take part in the July polls. Meanwhile, the United States says on Thursday the killing of a 2-year-old boy in Zimbabwe is a senseless and horrific act. It warned that the country's commitment to a free and fair election next month will be called into question if the murder was politically motivated. The statement came as Zimbabwe's military-backed president and a youthful opposition leader Chamisa registered for the July elections, the first without former leader Robert Mugabe's name on the ballot. A police spokesperson confirmed that the boy's father, Rambai Lumbe, was a local candidate for the National People's Party, one of several opposition parties in Zimbabwe. The U.S. statement warned against a continuation of violence during the campaign season. South Africa's power grid is under pressure with controlled blackout. Reports say this is because of workers' protest over pay. Analysts say this is a test of new President Cyril Ramaphosa's effort to put the state electricity provider Eskom on a stable financial footing. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has replaced the Interior and Defense Ministers in a major reshuffle on Thursday, with security forces battling an Islamist insurgency at the start of his second term. The new cabinet was sworn in on the newly appointed Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouly, who previously served as Housing Minister. The new cabinet represents a major overhaul, with fresh faces appointed to 10 other ministerial positions, including the key finance portfolio. Egyptian forces have since February been waging a sweeping operation against the local affiliate of the Islamic State group in the restive North Sinai province as the country tackles the raft of security and economic challenges. At least 10 Tanzanian army personnel were killed on Thursday and 200 others wounded when the overcrowded bus overturned in the south of the country. The army had rented the bus to transport more than 200 reservists to a training camp when it crashed in Igodima in Mbeya region. Regional Police Commander Musa Taibu blamed the accident on speeding and bad mechanical state of the bus. Tanzania President John Magufuli expressed deep sadness at the deaths. Uganda's military says a recently sacked police chief has been detained for questioning General Kale Kayihura, a former ally of the country's longtime president, is held at a military barracks in Kampala. No specific charge has been made. Sources say the case signals effort by President Yoweri Museveni to remove those he considers disloyal in his security forces. Reports say Kayihura was once a loyal enforcer of the regime, and some of his allies have also been arrested. Museveni has ruled Uganda for 32 years. Ethiopian opposition leader Andergetsu Tsege says he was released from prison because the country's prime minister has threatened to resign. Tsege spent 4 years in prison after being accused of planning to overthrow the Ethiopian government. He was sentenced to death 9 years ago, but was pardoned last month. Tsege has rejoined his family in London. Belgian authorities have responded favorably to a court's request to allow former DR Congo Vice President Jean-Pierre Bemba to stay in Belgium, where his family lives. He was cleared of criminal charges by the International Criminal Court last week. Belgian Foreign Affairs Minister Didier Reynders said on Thursday in his statement that the handover would be finalized in the coming days. Bemba left the detention center last Friday after a decade behind bars with the International Criminal Court in The Hague. He says he could not be held criminally liable for crimes committed by his troops in the Central African Republic in 2002 and 2003. 35-year-old Bemba had been sentenced unanimously to 18 years in 2016 by ICC trial judges after a decade behind bars following his arrest in Belgium at the International Court's request. Scientists at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology and Komfo Anokye Teaching Hospital in Ghana have designed beads to help mothers monitor children's respiratory rates to detect early stages of pneumonia. UNICEF says pneumonia accounts for approximately 2,400 deaths per day in children younger than 5 years old. Professor Daniel Ansong, lead researcher at the university, says sometimes parents and caregivers ignore the symptoms of pneumonia until children are nearly unconscious and the disease has become severe before coming to doctors. We'll take another short break and we will be back with sports. Stay with us.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Madam, go and bring us your husband. Okay, hello baby.
We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward.
Wait, stop.
You okay, Lindsay, alright? Keep walking down. Keep walking to the left. Yes.
You're almost here.
Keep going.
You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on, so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
Shining our eyes on breaking news, whether in the east or in the west, with Al-Shabaab in Somalia and Boko Haram in Nigeria, with turbulence in the north and agitation in the south. Wherever you live in Nigeria, wherever news happens in Africa, we've got it covered. ANN News, connecting Africans in a truly African spirit.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network.
Welcome back now to sports. The story dominating every sport news today is World Cup. Sochi is filled to the brim with fans and teams hoping to excel in the World Cup finals. In the opening match on the first day, hosts Russia routed Saudi Arabia 5-0 to take the lead in Group A. A few hours ago, Egypt's defense was so tight against Uruguay, but they couldn't hold it to the end. At the dying minute of regulation time, it's 9 minutes into the match, Uruguay's Jimenez delivered a free kick which Mark Wright nodded into the net from 7 yards out. In progress is Morocco versus Iran, and later this evening it will be Portugal versus Spain. African delegates to the World Cup finals in Moscow say they want FIFA to reintroduce the rotation system for World Cup hosting after Morocco failed to win hosting rights for the 2026 World Cup. The North African country lost to the triple North American bid on Wednesday. When the 2026 World Cup finals take place, Africa would have hosted only one of 23 World Cup finals. South Africa hosted the 2010 finals because the Football World Governing Body introduced a rotation system in 2001, pushed by former FIFA President Sepp Blatter. That's it on ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other stories, visit our website annafrica.net and our social media platforms ANN Africa TV. I am Rotimi Akintude. Have a good evening.